Good morning, Year 11. This is our second day from our marathon on revising for GCSE. So yesterday we talked about the nth term, and we started in class a little bit of work on changing the subject and more algebra, obviously, using all sorts of formulae, and also we've revised knowledge and skills on linear equations, the gradient, the y-intercept. Okay, so one of you guys told me that they would need more practice with changing the subject. Okay, so changing the subject is always based either on reversing or on balancing. Okay, in science also you use the triangle formula. Okay, this way of setting up a formula in science. But usually in maths, if you are given a formula, you either reverse the operations. For example, if x plus 3 equals y, you reverse it. It means that x equals y minus 3. So you see, plus and minus are inverse operations. So we do it this way. Or balancing out, x plus 3 equals y. So y is the subject here because y is by himself on one side of the equal sign. We take away 3 on both sides because we want to isolate x. Okay, so we take 3 on both sides and we are left with x on this side. X plus 3 minus 3 is 0. So x equals y minus 3. And that's our very, very, very simple way of changing the subject of a formula. Okay, what happens if we start with subtraction? So let's say you've got x minus 3 equals y. How can you make x the subject of this situation? So x is a number, you took away 3 from it, and now you're left with y. So what was x at the beginning? Again, you reverse the operations. X equals y plus 3. Easy. Now x is the subject because x is by himself there. Right, now let's do the same by balancing equations out. So what do I do to get rid of this minus 3? I add 3. If I add 3 on this side, I have to add 3 on the other side. So I'm going to end up with x minus 3 plus 3 is 0 equals y plus 3. That's great. So we've done this with addition and subtraction. These are the easiest one. Let's look at another type of subtraction. For example, when you've got 40 here, minus x here, and this is y, and you want to make x the subject of this formula, what you're going to do? Okay, in this case, you took away from 40, you took away something and you're left with y. So those two put together will give you 40. So if you reverse what you did, you're going to end up with 40 equals x plus y, because that's the reversed situation, yes? The inverse, the going backwards situation. So you go back to whatever was at the beginning. At the beginning, it was 40, you took x away from it, and you're left with y. Okay, 40 equals x plus y, but we don't want 40 to be the subject. We want x to be the subject. So if 40 is x plus y, then obviously x is 40 minus y. On the other hand, if you want to reverse the subject by using balancing method, you can do 40 minus x equals y here. You add x on both sides to make it positive. Now you've got 40 equals y plus x, and then you take away the y on this side to get rid of it, and you end up with 40 minus y equals x. Great. What happens when we are trying to reverse the subject in a multiplication? If you have 3x equals y, the reverse operation, you divide, because what's that? That's a little nice tiny multiplication sign that you can't see. Okay, So that's the common notation in algebra. You don't write the multiplication sign. You use the coefficient and the variable to make a term, okay? In this case, 3 times x is y. So you're going to divide by 3 on both sides, okay? And x will equal y over 3. You've reversed. Multiplication and division are inverse operations. Great. What if you divide? So let's say you've got 3 divided by x equals y. Okay, what would you do? So this 3, you started with 3, you divided it by x, and now you've got y. So if you want to go backwards, this 3 at the beginning was made from y times x. Okay, if you want, you can think in these terms. Let's say a very small example, 15 divided by 3 equals 5. How do you get 15? You need to multiply those two terms, isn't it? 15 is 3 times 5. That's the easiest example I can give you now. Okay, so 3 equals y plus x, but I need x. So if 3 is made of y times x, then my x will be made of 3 divided by y. You see, 15 divided by 5 equals 3. You see how they are linked, interlinked. Now, I think this is the most difficult one of them all. So that's why in science, you use these triangles. Speed equals distance over time, okay? So whatever is at the bottom, you multiply. Whatever is at the top, you divide by the time. So in order to find the speed, you divide distance by time. In order to find time, you divide distance by speed. And in order to find distance, you multiply those two. So we use these a lot in science. We also use these triangles when we work with trigonometry. We put the sine, opposite, and the hypotenuse here. So the sine of an angle, yes, SOHCAHTOA, yeah, sine of an angle equals the opposite over the hypotenuse, okay? And the hypotenuse, if we want to find the hypotenuse, you're going to do opposite over sine. And the last example that I'm going to give with division, okay, is when you have x at the top, x divided by a number gives you another variable. What does that mean? It means that you started with x, you divided by 3, now you have y. So if you want to go backwards, if you want to travel in time and go back, you're going to end up with a multiplication. X equals y times 3, and you write that as 3y's. Okay, so that's that. I've shown you how the most simple situations where you can reverse the operations that you did in order to get to a different subject. So make the other letter the subject, or in other words, to solve these type of questions. Okay, here we go. This is a substitution question, okay? This is when, and you are very good at that. You proved this to me yesterday, right? So V equals 2, you just put it there. You end up with C equals 11. I'm not going to even talk about it in depth anymore because you mastered it. You've shown it to me yesterday. It's amazing how well you've worked on these type of questions. Now, make V the subject of the formula. So I want to isolate V. So when they say make V the subject, it means isolate. Isolate V on one side. Okay, so you need to isolate V on one side. Okay, let's do it. So that's the first term that I need to isolate. So that's the first step. T equals 4V plus 3. I'm going to use the balancing method. Why? Because we use it a lot in class and you're quite used with it. So I've got a positive 3 here. If I want to get rid of it, I'm going to take it away. But if I take it away here, I have to take it away on the other side. So minus 3. Now let's rewrite what we have. So t minus that 3 equals 4 v's. So now I've got a multiplication here, 4v, so 4 times v. I need to divide by 4 on both sides. Great. So now I'm going to end up with t minus 3, everything divided by 4 equals v. And here we go. We've changed the subject. That's great. Okay, I'm going to leave this page now, and I'm going to go to this page. Now, reversing the square root means you raise to the power of 2. Okay, so you go, reversing the square root means you raise to the power of 2, or you square the number, you square it back. You square root it, now you square it back. So what you're going to do, first, you square them both back, and you end up with t squared equals this. G plus 6 over 2. Now, this is divide by 2, and I need to get rid of divide by 2. So I'm going to multiply by 2 on both sides, times 2 on both sides. So I end up with 2t squared equals g plus 6. Now, what do I need to do? I need to get rid of 6, minus 6 on both sides. And I ended up with 2t squared minus 6 equals g. And look, beautiful, 3 marks. All you need to do in this situation is not to get intimidated by the square root. How do you reverse the square root? You just square it. Okay, so the reverse operation of a square root is squaring it. Okay. Now let's go to the next question. It would be nice for you to pause the video and try to do it yourself. Let's look at this one. It says, make S the subject of that. Okay, so S is in this term. First, I need to isolate this term. What am I going to do? Get rid of u squared minus u squared on both sides. Okay, I've minused it. V squared minus u squared equals 2as. Okay, what do I do? What do I need to do now? I need to divide. I'm going to divide first by 2. Okay, to make it easier for you to understand and to follow. V squared minus u squared over 2 will equal as. Don't forget, that's a multiplication here, a times s. So now, if I want to isolate s, I'm going to divide by a on both sides. Divide by a. Great. So v squared minus u squared divide by 2 and by a. So I'm going to put a there because I've divided by a as well. So a goes down to the denominator. Dividing by equals s. Here we go. We've done it. Good. Let's go to the next question now. Again, square root. What do we need to do? We just square them both to go back to what was before. So p squared equals a plus t over 2. We need to make t the subject. So this is our target. This is what we need to do. Okay, let's get rid of a. Minus a on both sides. So p squared minus a equals t. Divide by 2. Amazing. Now we've divided t by 2. If we divide, if we want to reverse it, we are going to multiply it by 2. But don't forget, we multiply it on both sides. Okay, this is a very important step here, because what do you multiply on both sides? You multiply the full thing. Okay, so how do I write these down? I put the brackets there, okay? So p squared minus a times 2 equals t, because t over 2 times 2 is just t. Okay, the usual way of writing this expression is 2. brackets p squared minus a will equal t. So that's our t, the subject of our equation, or the subject of our formula. Okay. So I'm going to stop here for today, and I am going to leave you with this worksheet. Don't forget, you can go on gcsemathsquestions.co.uk, where you can find all the past questions organized on topics. Okay, this is where I got the PowerPoint from. Right, so let's see each other in class, and let's see what topic do you want to revise for tomorrow. Goodbye.